Okay, welcome to the Girl Gang podcast. Today we have Miss Kendra Perry. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Amanda. Thank you so much for having me.
So excited. I love this new platform we get to record on because it's really fun and I can see you clearly and hear you clearly. So, oh
That's
my
always
gosh,
good.
I think Zoom needs to step up their game. So, well, and then there goes the screen. So we'll
Mhm.
just see what happens. Also, here, I'll pause it really quick and I'll have her cut this. Okay, Kendra, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm an online business coach for health and wellness coaches. And I started doing that in 2019 after 5 years of running my own functional health coaching practice. And I really loved being a health coach, but I just sort of burnt out after years of hearing people's horrible health stories. And like we were talking about before we started recording, like feeling like I had to be a therapist, but had no tools to actually do so.
Right.
Right. And I just realized that I really want to have impact and I want to help a lot of people with their health. And for me, the best way to do that is actually to help the health coaches with their business, because if they can get their business running, they can literally be helping dozens, thousands, even millions of people. So I just felt like I could have a better, greater impact that way. Now, do you want to hear like the backstory, or do you just want to know like the
I'd love
surface?
to hear the backstory.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Okay. So I kind of started my business accidentally. I actually believe that I was always meant to be an entrepreneur because I have this like really vivid memory of being in high school and like whatever the career class was, and everyone's like planning out their
Yeah.
career. And at that point, like I hated this Monday to Friday schedule. I hated it.
Yeah.
And then I remember sitting there and I couldn't find a career. I was like, so I hate this schedule. And now I'm going to like go to university so that I can just find a job and keep doing this
With that same
shitty,
schedule.
yeah, Monday to Friday schedule that is like literally sucking my soul. So I never felt very inspired about it. I ended up going to university, changing my degree like 4 or 5 times. I actually don't even know what I graduated in. I do have a Bachelor of Science, but I cannot remember what it's in because I switched so many times. I was
That
just like
is so good.
all over the map. And I ended up just going into forestry. And, I planted trees. I designed logging cut blocks. I was involved in logging operations. I did wildfire fighting as well, which was all seasonal. So I've actually
Wow.
really never had like a normal job. I'd work really hard in summer and then take winters off so I could ski.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been a skier my whole life. And what I really wanted was to be a professional skier. I
Yeah.
competed in high school. I competed internationally in mogul skiing, which is a really ridiculous sport. If the audience knows what that is. But I really wanted to be a professional skier. And so that lifestyle, that seasonal lifestyle really suited
Mm-hmm.
that. And then at the end of, I believe it was 2011, I jumped off this little cliff and I blew my knee. And
Nice.
I didn't at the time know that it was a big deal, but
Mm-hmm.
like I'd had injuries before. So I like literally just skied down on one ski and I was like, I'm cool. Went to Thailand 2 days later. I'm like, I'm fine. And then came back, did the fit test for firefighting, and then fought on it all summer. But when I tried to go skiing next year, I could feel like the jiggling in the knee and I was like, something's not right. So I ended up having an exploratory surgery when they're like, yeah, your anterior collateral ligament is just in shreds. And that is a very important ligament for skiing.
Yeah.
Like, very important. Like soccer players will know what I'm talking about, like
Yeah.
ACL. So I knew I needed reconstructive surgery. And I remember just like, I was like super messed up on whatever drugs they gave me. And I'm like lying on this gurney. And they're like, oh, your knee is fine, but your ACL's in shreds. Like close you up, stick you in a hallway. And I was like, what? And I just sort of realized that I'm like, well, this is a really long recovery. At that point, I was in my mid 20s, which is getting
Yes.
old for an athlete, right?
Right.
Unfortunately. And then
Yeah.
I had this really physical job. So I was like, what am I going to do to
What
pay
do I
my
do?
bills? Yeah, it was really tough. I went through this entire identity crisis because I was like, I'm a skier. What do I do if I can't ski? And I was single at the time and I had to have this reconstructive surgery and I was like alone in my apartment and it was just really hard.
Oh, it sounds terrible.
It was so hard. And I just was like, what am I going to do with myself? I had to go on, medical and unemployment. And I
Yep.
was unemployed for a long time. And But I'd been really into writing when I was in university. I'd written for the paper, so the university paper. So I decided to start a blog. I started this health blog called Crazy Happy Healthy because at that point
I
I
love
was
it.
having some health issues and I was really interested in alternative and natural wellness. I started this blog and then I was like, I can be a blogger.
Yeah.
But I did not figure that out. I think I probably made a total of like $2.50 from like Google AdSense. Like I couldn't figure it out at all. So
I
I was
feel like
like,
we've all had that moment where we're like, I could be a blogger. And
yeah.
then we either do it or we don't.
Yeah. And I mean, this was like 2011. So blogging was a thing. I think these days, like to be a blogger, it seems like really unreasonable. But at that time, there were a lot of people who were crushing it with their blogs. And I was like, I could do that. But then it didn't work out. And then one day I was listening to this health and wellness podcast. This man was on talking about his certification program where he's like, yeah, we like certify coaches. We teach you how to like run labs with your clients, even if you're unlicensed. And I was like, I could be a health coach. And so that's what I ultimately did is I did this certification and started a business. And it was so great because it allowed me to not work that 9 to 5 schedule, but also work from the town that I live in. Cause I live in a really small town of like 10,000 people. There's not a lot of job opportunity here. So
Sure.
it just sort of that was sort of the ticket. And that's kind of what started everything.
I
So
love it. You sound like my husband in that you got injured and you were like, nah, whatever. Like, I'm fine. He went on a 5 or 6 week backpacking trip in Europe when we were in college and dislocated his shoulder. And it has never been the same since.
wow.
It's like it's fine now, but it was pretty bad. And like he did not go to the doctor,
Yeah.
He's broken both of his ankles twice. I think he's broken a wrist before, and I'm over here. I was not an athlete. Well,
Yeah.
I wasn't. I would not call myself an athlete. I played basketball until I was 13. So I don't think that counts.
Decent.
It's something. But he was like swimming, track, cross country, but none of like the other like traditional sports. He grew up in Arkansas in a town of 10,000 people, small town, like climbing mountains, going camping all the time. So he was always getting hurt. And I'm like, here I am, I grew up in Texas in the suburbs, never broken a bone,
Well, it's so funny. I feel like
yeah,
there's been a lot of situations where I've been injured where I'm calming down the people who are freaking out that I'm injured. I'm like,
exactly.
everybody calm down. I'm fine. Bleeding everywhere, but I'm fine.
Yeah, we just had a bunch of our friends from college over this last weekend for like a big sleepover, which was so fun. And we were reminiscing because one of our friends, John, got married a few years ago. Zach was in the wedding. He also sleepwalks in the middle of the night. He sleptwalk with, and all the groomsmen are there. It's like his, apartment. He sleepwalks, falls and hits his head, gashes it open, has a concussion. Then it wakes everybody up, and our friend sees him like bleeding, and he faints, and then he's like bleeding, and he's like, you guys, something's wrong with Jacob. Like Jacob needs help, but he's the one like concussed and bleeding.
Oh my
And he
God.
had no idea, and it was like the craziest thing ever. And then he was in the wedding the next day, did the whole day, did the whole wedding. He was relatively fine, and it was just like really wild. It makes for a great story.
It sure does.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'd love to get into helping business owners who are in the health industry, because like we were talking about earlier, it's when you are a therapist or a designer, or you're really good at your craft in your specialty, but then we go into business for ourselves. But no one went to business school. No one taught. There's not like you're starting a business, here's this manual, like it'd be super nice. But and then that's where like business coaches like yourself and like myself, where we can come in and say, okay, here's how you can really structure things so that your craft is seen by other people, and people can discover you and take advantage of this. So what are some of the common things you're seeing, especially in the wellness industry, that you love to come in and help fill the gaps for?
Yeah, well, you definitely hit the nail on the head where, people are really good at what they do, but just being an expert and knowing your shit really well doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be successful in business. And I think where I see a lot, especially in the health and wellness space, so I see a lot of people go wrong, is they think that to get clients to be successful, they need more education in health and wellness.
Like more
Right? Yeah.
certifications, or like
So
they
they're
need to
like,
be a doctor.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So they're like, I don't feel confident, so I need to know more. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to go take this other certification. And then they're just like, okay, well, okay, maybe I need to do this certification.
It's like,
And
is
they
this
don't actually,
enough? Yeah.
exactly, they don't actually end up investing in their business education. And I like to tell coaches that you need just as much education, if not more, in business that you got with your health coaching, whatever
Yeah.
certification that you did. Like you really need to master that, and you really only need one health certification. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can build a very successful business with just one certification.
Yeah.
And obviously, health and wellness coaches are nerdy. They love continuing education. That's great. But they really need to invest in their business. And I think
Yeah.
that's like a big switch that I love to just like help them be like, you actually need to learn business because it doesn't matter
Yeah.
how good you are at what
Yep.
you do. If people don't know you can help them, that's it. And then the other thing I love to help them with is niching down,
Mm-hmm.
because coaches typically are trying to help everyone, and they're using the language that they learned in their certification, their sort of like expert language. And they're like, I can help you take your health to the next level. I can help you uncover healing opportunities. I'm going to help you prevent future disease. And like the regular person's like, huh?
What does that mean?
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
They're like, I got acne. Can you help me with
Can you
acne?
give me something? Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel like, and that's a really, really big point of like resistance with new coaches, is this need to niche down, because what they feel like is like, well, if I niche down, I'm excluding people, I'm pigeonholing myself, and I
Mm.
can only talk about that one thing, but I want to talk about all these things. And what I'm trying to help them get to is this epiphany of niching is about marketing. It's not about what you do as a coach. It actually doesn't change what you do
Mm-mm.
as a coach that much.
Mm-mm.
It just changes how you talk to people and
Mm-hmm.
how you connect with people. Ultimately, when people come into your world, they come into your health coaching program, you're going to do all the things that you want to do, all your, whatever, essential
Yeah.
oils, like diet, like lifestyle, whatever. But you have to meet people where they're at. And
Yep.
all of us have been raised in this conventional medical system where we focus on symptoms. We have a symptom, we get a specific pill for that symptom.
Medication.
Yep. And like specialists, right? I've got a hormone problem, endocrinologist. I got a GI problem, gastroenterologist, right?
Yep.
So people are very much living in that paradigm. And if you try to talk to them from your paradigm, it doesn't connect, and you're just going to miss them. And they're always going to go find the coach who helps people with the specific problem that they have, right?
Right. No, I think it's right on the head. And a lot of people, like to your point, that come to me as well, are really great at a lot of different things, or they can help with a lot of different things,
Mhm.
but they're trying to speak to everybody.
Yeah.
And when you try to take your fishing net and go out into the ocean and catch all the fish, like, it just doesn't work,
Yeah.
and like it, and you may fill up a whole thing, but like it may not be the fish that you want,
Yeah.
and you only have one net, and so like what are you going to do, and you only have one boat. So I think it's so important to, and I know people talk about that all the time on the online space, is like niche down, blah blah, but I think it's really about, what are those couple or one thing that you are an expert in, that you can help people with. And then,
Mhm.
there's probably another piece of your mission statement, your I help statement, whatever, that can encompass
Mhm.
the general practice of what you do. Um, I love it. There's something you posted on your Instagram recently, and I'm going to read it for those who are
Sure.
listening. It's your most recent one, actually. You said you can be both a health coach and on your own health journey. They're not mutually exclusive. I think that's really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of people are feeling that, maybe not even in the health space, but like in the business space, or whatever your expertise is, or your as a service provider to. I would love to hear like your thoughts behind this, because I mean, you mentioned, it's like it's a little bit of imposter syndrome, or feeling
Yeah.
like, well, I'm not there, or kind of like these the professionals you're working with, like, well, I don't have this certification, so like they're not going to trust me, or like
Yeah.
I don't have my doctorate, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, it is imposter syndrome, and it's also perfectionism too, right?
Mm,
And I think it's really important. And this is something I struggled with too, because, the reason why I became a health coach is because I was struggling so horribly with my health. I had like
yeah,
almost a decade of severe chronic fatigue, just like
yeah,
waking up every day so tired, so exhausted, sleep did not resolve that. And it's something that I still sometimes struggle with, but I'm in a much better place. And
mm,
so there I was as a health coach helping women with their fatigue, and I'm fatigued, right?
yeah,
And so it can make you feel like, well, who am I to talk about this because I'm still struggling, right? But I actually think that makes you
yeah,
more qualified to help people because you can empathize and you understand, right?
yeah.
People love it when you understand what they've been through. I don't think people relate to someone who's like never had their own health struggles, or they've had their own health struggles and now they're presenting themselves as like, oh, I'm 100%
I'm
healthy now.
cured. Yeah,
I'm cured. I'm perfect. Like, health is an ongoing journey. You don't just wake up one day and say, I'm healthy. Just like with business, you don't just wake up one day and be like, oh, my business is running. It's perfect. Now I can go hang out on the beach and it'll just run itself. It just doesn't
right.
happen like that. Like, that's
No.
definitely a myth. And so I think a lot of coaches are preventing themselves from getting out there and helping people, and they're hiding their gifts because they're like, well, I need to be healthier. Like, I'm still sick. I can't
Hmm.
help people.
Hmm.
But I truly believe that being a leader and an expert is just blazing the trail, like just a step or two in front of the person behind you,
Yeah.
right? And I guarantee that anyone who's a health coach has seen improvement in their
Yeah.
condition or their symptom or whatever it is. Like, you've seen it's changed your life in some way, because that's why you're pursuing it. That's why you believe in it. And that's what matters, right? And I think it's really important to share your journey with your people, because, when I was a health coach, I had so many people being like, I want to work with you because you understand what I'm going through, and you're not out there trying to be perfect. Like, you have your own struggles, and that's real and that's authentic. And I can connect with that, right? People want
Yeah.
that connection.
That's something that I like is very key and foundational to who I am as a person, and who, like, how my company operates, and everything. If people can't relate to me, then I need to change something. Like, something's gone terribly awry. um, and I think we see a lot of that happen with business owners or public figures or influencers online, or in the media, in the public eye, that they grow and they become unrelatable.
Yeah.
And and I'm thinking of like big business educators that I no longer really want to follow because they've made it, quote unquote.
Hmm.
And they don't seem relatable anymore. um my friend Rachel D'Alto just wrote a book called Relatable. I don't
Mm.
know if it's out yet. I think it's on pre-order. But she's an incredible speaker, um, coach, public figure, all those things. And she's in kind of like the relationship and dating space a little bit,
Hmm.
big on TikTok. And
Oh, cool.
her book came out. I think I'm okay to say this. She announced that her book was coming out as all of the oh my gosh, now I'm blanking. Not Rachel. What is her name? Oh my gosh, this is just like disappearing from my brain. She wrote Girl Wash Your Face and
Oh, yeah. I
big
don't know
into
the name, but I
we're
know
gonna
that
cut
book.
this out of the podcast because it just sounds terrible that I'm not remembering her name.
Girl, wash your face.
Hollis, Rachel
Oh,
Hollis.
Rachel Hollis. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let me back up. I'm gonna have Rebecca cut that out. So my friend Rachel D'Alto announced her book Relatable as soon as all of the Rachel Hollis stuff was
Hmm.
happening, and
Yeah.
it was just like She didn't do it on purpose either. It was just like this happened to all line up. I was like, because I asked her, I was like, girl, you doing this on purpose? And she was like, no, but it's like just more proof of like
Mhm.
why, you know, we need to just continue to be relatable. And I think
Mhm.
too, on the other side, there's some truth to not always like airing out your dirty laundry, because then you
Yes.
just become a very negative
Mhm.
force or perspective, because then it feels like you're you can turn into like complaining, and then people
Mhm.
see your negative and like scarcity mindset.
Mhm.
um where do you kind of like balance that or draw the line? I think that's hard for people too.
I think I agree. It is hard for people, but I think how you can kind of distinguish between like what you should share and what you shouldn't share is really just keeping your audience in mind. Remembering that your business isn't about you, it's about your audience. And that doesn't mean you don't share your point of view on certain things. But I always like to look at something, if I share this, is there a lesson in it? Is there something my audience can take away from it? Because if there's not, then it's just me like being an influencer and blasting my whatever, like you said, dirty laundry on social media, and it has no purpose, right? And so
Yeah,
I will share more vulnerable stuff sometimes and more personal stuff, but I always try to have a takeaway or a lesson or what people can get from it, because if they can't get anything from it, then I think I've done my audience a disservice. I'm just like,
I think so
I don't
too.
know, humoring my ego or something like that.
I think, yeah, that's some of the best advice I've ever received too, is like, what's the purpose this is going to serve? If I'm
Hmm.
hopping on my stories just to talk about something that pisses me off,
Yeah.
or that's frustrating and I'm just wanting to talk,
Yeah.
maybe let's not,
Yeah.
or if it is something that's very like, you know, it's emotional and it's frustrating or whatever, let's maybe sit with it for a little bit,
Hmm.
for a few hours, a day, and then really decide, okay, is this what I want to share? And I think to your point, what we talked about earlier, some, business owners that are like we say, they're great experts, and then they're getting into learning how to operate and grow their business.
Hmm.
Um, they are more private, and they want, like, I see that a lot with my clients that are more introverted too, and it's difficult for them to like get on stories and show their face, or even like post a picture or a video of themselves. And I know not everybody is different. Like, I'm
Hmm.
100% a proponent of do what you want and build your business like you want. But I think it's very key, especially now, that people see you and see your
Yeah.
face and who you are and hear your voice. Especially if your clients are virtual, and like,
Yeah.
how else are they going to build trust with you? So what's been your experience with those other types of clients that you have as well?
Yeah, and I'd love to speak to this introvert thing because I have a lot to say on that because
Yeah,
I'm an introvert. I may not seem like it, but I'm very introverted, and I actually believe that online business is built for introverts, right? Because literally, you put your face out there. We're like on this podcast interview right now. I'm like, bubbly and whatever, but like we're gonna turn this off, and I'm gonna be like in the forest alone, right? How great is that as an introvert? Like you're not in a crowd, you don't have to like turn it on all day. Like you just have to do it for bursts and then you're essentially alone,
yeah,
right? And you're out of it. So I actually think it's really built for introvert and I think a lot of people and this is not me trying to be mean or anything, but I think a lot of people use I'm an introvert as an excuse to do things that they're afraid to do, right? And there's a big
I
difference
would agree.
between being an introvert and not having confidence because you haven't mastered it,
Yes,
you
there you
know?
go.
And I think that you're right. You do have to show your face. I think you've got to be on video. You mentioned trust. Trust is the number one reason why people will buy. There was a recent, I think it was a Forbes article, and they referenced a study where trust was the number one reason why people bought over price point, value, and quality.
Yeah,
That's huge, right?
yeah,
You're never going to trust someone who you don't feel like
yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And you mentioned like people, they're like, well, I'm private. Well, we're all kind of private. I mean, some people just like to throw it all out there, but
Sure.
like, okay. But like, even then, our online persona is such a small piece of who we are. It's minuscule.
Yeah.
Like every human is super complex, has really intense shit going on in their
Yeah.
lives all the time. And very few people are privy to that in your life. Like the
Right.
amount of people who actually know me in my life is a really
Hmm.
small handful of like close friends and family.
Yep.
Right. So you might feel like you know me, but you don't. And I
Yeah.
might feel like I know you, but I don't, so you can maintain a very private life and still give people a window into it.
Into who
Right.
you are and your
Yeah.
personality, at least.
Yeah, like people
Yeah.
want to know your interests. Like if you come onto my Instagram stories, you'll know that I'm very connected with nature. I love the
Hmm.
outdoors. I love my adrenaline sports. You'll also know that I'm very like opinionated. I have a lot of opinions about like the world right now, and I'm not afraid to like be
Talk about it.
polarizing and outspoken about it. Right? You're
Sure.
gonna know that I love to garden. I love to eat organic food. I have a really like I'm a crazy cat lady. You're gonna know those things about me, and that's gonna make you feel like you know me to some degree. But like
Yeah.
you're not privy to like all the other intense shit going on in my life, and that's not the
Sure.
point. Mhm.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, and I just have seen so many times where it is to the detriment of
Mhm.
people if they are just talking about shit just to talk, or bringing things up that it's like there was no reason to do this, or they just want to be polarizing just to stir the pot.
Yeah.
If you have a purpose and a reason that, like you said, if it serves a purpose and if it serves
Mhm.
your community that has invested time into following you and into getting to know you, and maybe even trusting you and becoming a client of yours, you there's a certain level of like Spider-Man, like responsibility
Yeah.
that comes with that, you know?
Yeah.
Um, I think that goes for everybody. I think we hear
Mhm.
celebrities talk about, at least like the good ones, talk about it all the time. Like there is a responsibility that they have to not be perfect, but to be like, I don't know, just respectful
Yeah.
and serve people. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's always
No, I
interesting.
agree with you. And I don't think it's helpful to anyone if you're just out there spewing
Yeah.
all your own personal things for no reason. But, there is a time where you might want to take a stand on something. I do that often.
Mhm.
This past year and a half has been really challenging because I do have a lot of opinions on the world.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll see things and I'll get kind of triggered and I'm like, I just want to post this to my stories and blah, blah, blah. And I'm
Yeah.
like, chill out,
Hold
like
on.
think about it, like do the research, make sure it's legit, make sure
Yeah.
that's not just like some like bullshit thing that somebody said.
Right.
And then like if you want to do a story on it, like do it, back it up, say your thing, and encourage people to like, you know, share it if they resonate with it. And, I think there's a lot of things that deserve our attention right now. And,
Yeah.
as someone with, I have a small platform, but sometimes I do feel the need to use it for certain social issues.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But I agree
Sure.
with you, the responsibility. I'm not just going to start spewing things out there that I don't understand and I can't back up.
Yeah. I think that's a very, very good point. Speaking of polarizing,
Mhm.
a little bit different, but what I would love to hear, like a time in business for you that was absolutely very difficult, and
Mhm.
like what you did or what happened. And then a time that you were just like, oh my gosh, I am so happy this is what I get to do.
Yeah. Well, I always like to think back to for a difficult time. I mean, I think there's a lot of difficult times in business. Like it's a bit of a roller coaster. And I mean, I think like I have a bunch of like dark holes every year, but
I think we all do.
yeah, but I really think back to this time. It was probably my second year in business, third year in business. And what I really wanted was to like launch an online course.
Mm,
And I was like, I'm going to launch this course and I'm going to, have this great success. And I was working with a coach at the time who was my first coach, who
mm,
did help me a lot, but definitely put some unrealistic expectations into my head
yeah.
around what I could do with a first launch. And I was convinced I was going to make like $15,000. And I had post-its with $50,000 like all over my office. I'm like, I'm manifesting this. Like, this is what's happening.
Oh
And
gosh.
yeah, and I spent all this time building this course without actually like connecting with my audience and
Mm.
trying to understand what they actually wanted. I
What do
was
they
like, this is what
need?
you need. but they didn't necessarily want that. And so
Yeah.
I spent 6 to 8 months building it. My partner was
Oh,
like, I'm going to
wow.
break up with you because you're working on the weekends. Like, what the hell? And I was like, I got to do this. I got to do this. And then I
Wow.
launched it, put a whole bunch of money behind ads. I actually had a really viral Facebook ad, and I
Oh,
had like
wow.
so many people coming onto this webinar. I probably had like 600 people in this webinar, like first webinar.
Wow.
Yeah. And like brand new and never done a webinar before. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And like, I didn't make a single sale.
Oh my,
Yeah.
that makes my gut hurt.
Oh man, it was so because it was like perplexing because it actually had never occurred to me that it wasn't going to be a huge success. Like I hadn't considered that possibility. So I was just like so confused when like the webinar ended and like nothing was happening. And then I was like, okay, I just need to like do this webinar. I'm going to launch it. Like, I think I did it 2 or 3 more times. And I did make, I think, 3 sales on like a $400 course in the end, but it did not cover,
Wow.
what I had put into it financially and also all the time I invested. And like,
Mhm.
I was like literally like inconsolable, fetal position, bathroom floor,
Crying.
bawling my
You're like,
eyes out.
"This
I
is
was
it. It's over."
yeah, I felt like such a failure. And I just sort of was like, okay, I guess I'm just supposed to do one-on-one coaching. So kind of went back to that. And I didn't want to do one-on-one coaching anymore. I
Yep.
was really exhausted. I wanted courses, I wanted group programs. And so I ended up hiring a different coach who helped me understand that like you really got to go for what people want.
Yeah, and then what you wanna do too.
Yeah. And the marketing is about what they want. You give them what they need inside your program, but like the marketing has to look a little bit different.
Yeah.
Right. And so I ended up, spending more time actually interacting with my audience, surveying them, and essentially being like, what do you want? And like, what type of program do you want?
Right.
And I sort of built it based on that. I also pre-sold it, which is like pre-selling is really scary, but so effective
So effective.
because yeah,
Especially
and
if you
that's what
have
I
some
teach
kind of
people
wait
inside
list.
my yeah. Yeah, totally. So I teach my students inside my one of my courses because it's just like if you spend all this time building something, there's no guarantee it's going to sell.
Yeah.
Pre-sell it, teach it live, and then like run it in beta until you're like 100% confident with the
Yeah.
curriculum. Update it with every round, get feedback before you
Mhm.
like evergreen it, record it, whatever you're going to do with it.
Mhm.
It's just going to serve you so much more. It's more upfront work, but the payoff is huge because in the end, you have a program that is exactly what your audience wants. And
Yeah.
yeah, you didn't like waste all the time and you were making money while you built it. Right. And
Yeah.
so that's essentially what I did is I sort of learned about beta testing
Yeah.
and pre-selling. And then my next program, which was actually a membership, group membership program, I ended up, I think I made like 10K. And at that point, like
Yeah.
hadn't even had like, it was my first 10K month. I was like, oh my God,
This
this
is
is crazy.
amazing. Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And so it was just really like a bit of a different mindset and also patience because I think people want the
Yeah.
end result so fast,
It
right?
takes time.
Yeah. It takes
That's
so
not
much
what anyone
time.
wants to hear, but
No, it's
it
not.
it just does. Like, you
Yeah.
can't launch something in 2 weeks. You can't come up with something
Mhm.
and then put it out there and think that it's gonna sell in 2 weeks. Sales and marketing is kind of like, for the most part, I feel like kind of a long game, especially if you are new to the
It is.
space, if you have new followers, if they've not
Mhm.
been around for very long. It takes time for you to learn, for them to learn and be educated and then see it enough and then make a decision on if they are interested in it. you know,
Yeah.
it just takes so much more time than people think.
Yeah, and I think also like you don't hit the nail on the head with the program on the first time. Like you think it
No.
should be taught a certain way, but what you're going to learn in that first time that you run it is like, oh, everyone was really confused about that. Like they did not get that. Like I need to do a better job of explaining that.
Sure.
Or like, I think people could really use a resource for this to help them implement it better.
Totally.
Or, I need to add in this or whatever. Like you learn so much. And, even at this point, I'm in year 7 in my business.
Mhm.
I still do all my programs this way. I always put them through beta, right? I'm
Yeah.
just right now updating a program and turning it evergreen that I've run 5 times live. Like I still do this. Like even if you are really seasoned and really know your audience, I think it can still serve you to run something in beta because it's just so much easier to make updates when you run it live, rather than you record all the videos, you put it in the platform, you do everything. And now you're like, oh crap, I have to change everything.
Right.
And it's going to take me so much time to do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man. Yeah. I have something I'm considering doing, creating a new program from, but like a miniature program.
Mm.
And I'm thinking about when I would start beta testing for that because, you know, I don't know. I think there's a lot of demand for it from some other things that I've done and feedback I've gotten, but like you got to test that stuff.
Oh God,
Um,
you do, and everyone does it, right? You think of like physical products, right? Like
oh
people
yeah.
don't just buy 100,000 copies of their product and get them made and then hope it sells. It's like they like do a trial run. They get a little bit
Mm-hmm.
made. They put it out there. They see what people say. They like adapt it. They make it better, and and
Yeah.
then they have more made and more made. Like it's no one just gets a million whatever
Yeah.
made right off the bat and hope that it sells,
Yeah.
right?
When it's like, you know, if a company is creating a new product, they're not going, they don't put out the first round of that product. They test it, they do
Mhm.
R&D, all that stuff, and then when they get the version that's the best one, then they're going to push it, then they're going to market it more, then they're going to put ads behind it, and that's what I see so many people doing, that I'm like, why are you spending money on ads? Or Instagram and Facebook just want, they kind of prey on people who want to get some quick traffic and like
Yeah.
boost your post or boost your thing. No, no, no. Oh my gosh, I couldn't tell you how many times people have come to me and they're like, yeah, I've been boosting posts and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, stop that right now. They're, they're just taking your money. You know, it's not what you think. Ads are complicated. You need help unless you know exactly how it all works and how to run it. Don't do it by yourself. And oh my gosh, it just makes me cringe when I think of how much money people
Oh,
have lost.
I agree. And I think people think ads are a magic bullet and they're not.
Oh,
And like me personally, like I'm all about organic marketing and what I
yeah.
teach my students is organic marketing. And I think there's a place for ads. I run ads, but
Same.
I have honestly, like I've had so much more success with my organic marketing. Like ads is so hard when, especially when you're running it to cold traffic, like people who don't know you, like you're just like
What are you doing?
a
Yeah.
head. You're just like a body. Like they're just like, who is this person?
Yeah.
Versus like they found you organically.
Right.
They kind of like test. They're like kind of like come in. They like watch a little bit. And they're like, I kind of like this chick. Cool, cool. Like it's just the organic. And I mean, there's a place for both. And I think you do
Mhm.
need both ultimately in the end. But I always teach my students to start with organic marketing because it's just you go right into ads when you're a nobody. Like it's just I don't know.
Yeah.
You can lose so much money.
Yeah. Oh, well, and that's the thing. Facebook doesn't care. It's
Nope.
all the same to them.
Yeah, totally,
Oh
totally.
my gosh. Um, okay, so what was your like best moments
I
or
feel
like,
like it's
you know,
right
to
now.
date? That's so good.
Yeah, yeah, I think like, it's really nice to be at this point in my business because like things don't feel hard, right? I feel like
Right.
year 1, you're like, I'm losing my mind. What the hell? Year 1 to 3, you're getting a bit of a groove, but it's like so challenging. You kind of hit year 3, you start to get into your groove. 5 years plus, you're like, yeah, I'm killing it. You've got your team. I recently hired this year an online business manager, which was
Yeah.
like a dream position. And I'm just like, I love it.
Yeah.
I'm not an organized person, so it helps me so much.
Really? That's so
Yeah.
interesting to me.
I feel like I hold it together, but it's not my strong point.
I
And
love
then
it.
I have a great assistant and, content creator, all these things. So it's just been really great to have the team to be able to, work 25 hours a week, 30 hours a week. I love that. And also just I'm really stoked on my programs and like what
Yeah.
I'm putting out there. I love teaching it. It just has taken me a long time because I made the big niche switch in 2019. So I've been
Mm,
business coaching for just about 2.5 years now.
mhm.
So that was like, it was basically starting a new business. Like it was an easy
Totally.
transition because I already somewhat had the audience, but
Yeah.
I started with one-on-one coaching again. And I like, went through the whole process and the testing and what am I going to do? How do I want to serve people? And now I'm finally like very solid on my business model. And it just feels great.
I love it.
I
That's
love
so
it.
good. I love it
Mhm.
too. That's so exciting that you're like, it's right now.
Yeah, right here.
I love it. Well, tell us like what's coming up for you. Like what are you so excited about right now? What do you really see happening in the future for you?
Yeah. So right now, I'm really excited about the relaunch of my program, Health Coach Accelerator. So this is the one that I've run 5 times in beta as a live program, and now I'm
Mhm.
updating it and turning it evergreen. So I'm very excited to have that so that it's always available for coaches to come into, and we're going
Yeah.
to relaunch it at the end of September. So I'm
So
like
exciting.
getting really fired up about that. I'm updating the trainings right now and doing that whole process. So that's what I feel really excited about for like the near future. And then I
Mhm.
think like long-term future, I'm a terrible planner. As I never know. I'm just like, it'll be awesome. But I'm really excited about yeah, just continuing to run my business in this kind of like low stress, like not too many hours a week way so that I can
Yeah.
do more crazy outdoor trips and go to
Yeah.
cooler places in the mountains. So
Yeah. I love it. So cool. Well, tell us, how can we find you and keep in touch with you on social media and online?
yeah, the best place to connect with me is on Instagram. My handle is
Perfect.
at Kendra Perry Inc. So at Kendra Perry Inc. That's where I hang out all day. If you have any questions or want to connect with me, shoot me a DM. I answer all DMs. I always love to chat with people. And then I also have
Yeah.
my own podcast called The Wealthy Coach,
Yeah.
which will teach you how to build a successful, profitable, and very aligned coaching business.
I love it. Very
Yeah.
cool. Well, Kendra, thank you so much for your time today on the Girl Gang podcast. You guys go connect with her. And I'm so glad we got to talk about all these good things that we align
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. See you guys next time.